Okay, welcome to Steve's cooking show where I take simple things and make them delicious. I've had quite a few requests over the last few days to make us make a classic butter tart recipe that I've made for my family quite a bit over the years. It's going to be kind of a longer video, and I'm going to try to edit a shorter video also. But if you're new to baking or butter tarts, I suggest watching the whole video. So I'm going to go over the things that we're going to need. To start, we're going to need a baking sheet. We're going to need tart shells, probably about 20-25 or so. We're going to make a sugar pastry, and that requires, one thing you're also going to need is a food scale. I weigh my dry ingredients to the gram. I just find it a whole lot more consistent rather than using cups and half cups and such. By the way, these are the best butter tarts ever, and if you follow the way I do it, you're gonna have great success. Anyways, so we got 460 grams of flour going into the sugar pastry, 285 grams of margarine. I'm gonna use 2 eggs and a pinch of salt. And then I'm gonna kind of hand mixer it all together. For the butter tart goop, as I call it, we're going to need 225 grams of brown sugar, 150 mils of corn syrup, a little bit of vanilla, about 5 mils. They say about 50 grams of raisins, but I put about 5 raisins in each butter tart, and I just simply put them in a little bit of warm water, and it helps them to plump up after they come out of the package. I got some dusting flour. We're going to need a rolling pin. The goop also requires 3 eggs. Okay, so I'm going to start with the pastry. Starts with 2 eggs. Bailey. You can show Bailey if you like.
Bailey. Shush.
Okay, so I got my eggs. I'm going to put the sugar in. I'm going to quickly just kind of hand mix that together. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and try to add as much of this margarine as I can. There it goes. Okay, and mix it again. Okay, so it requires a pinch of salt into the dough. I'm just going to kind of give it a few twists into the flour. And I'm just going to add about maybe half to a quarter of the flour at once. Kind of just mix it around with like that so it doesn't all spray all over the place. Okay, so it comes together quite quickly. Just kind of get it out of the beaters. So as I'm kind of taking it off the beaters, I feel it's kind of, the dough might be a little wet. I'm going to try mixing it a little more, but I might have to just add just a little bit more flour. You don't want it to be too dry. You don't really want it to stick to your fingers like it is currently onto my fingers. It's actually not too bad, but I will add just a little bit more flour. Maybe about 25 grams or so, but I still suggest you start with 460 grams of flour, because you can see even as I just added that, it's dried it up. It's going to be just a little bit better. Get in there and use my hands for the rest. Yeah, that's much better. Okay, so now that we have our dough, we're going to just quickly, I guess, put it into 2 balls. Like that. It doesn't require any kneading or nothing. And I'm going to saran wrap and cool it in the fridge for about half an hour. One. I actually do think we got some good dough right here, right now. Okay, so we're back. I've just kind of cleaned off the beaters, got the excess dough off them. Now it's time to make the goop. I have my dough in the fridge cooling down. You're going to need 115 grams of softened butter, 225 grams of brown sugar going first, and we are going to take the beaters to it and kind of mix it up. Okay, your butter really needs to be a little softer than currently is. It'll work. Ideally, you'd want your butter to be a little bit softer. I just didn't have time to leave it out long enough, as we are due at a Christmas party today at about 3 o'clock, and it is noon, and I'm bringing butter tarts. Okay, so should be a little bit more creamier than that. It's still going to work. I'm going to go ahead and add my corn syrup. And I'm going to go ahead and add my eggs. Now I add eggs into my butter tart goop to prevent them from being a runny tart. I'm not a really big fan of runny tarts. When I was taught to make butter tarts, I was told to imagine that the guy is wearing an $80 tie, or the woman is wearing, a $100 blouse, and they do not want butter tart goop spilling onto their clothes. So, gonna mix that up a little bit more. forgot to add is just a little bit of vanilla, just for an extra little bit of flavor, about 5 mils. And I'm going to go ahead and add 25 grams of flour. That just adds a little bit of, as they say, thickening power to the mix. Okay, and there we have it. We have our butter tart goop. Tastes really good. You can make this ahead of time. You can just put it in the fridge, cover it up. You just might need to mix it a little bit because the corn syrup will kind of sink to the bottom. But when we're using it right away, it'll be just fine. To help me pour, and I'll show you when I'm pouring the goop into the butter tart shells, I usually put it into a juice pitcher, and it just makes it a whole lot easier than pouring it out of the bowl. Okay, so we're gonna cut the camera here now. I'm gonna clean up a bit, and I'm gonna show you how to roll out the pastry, put the pastry into the tart shells, and we're gonna make some butter tarts. Okay, so it's been about 20 minutes or so. I've had the dough in the fridge, and it's cooled down enough to start to roll out. I've transferred my goop into a gravy boat. That's just going to make it much easier to put the goop into the tarts. I'm going to flour my counter. Flour up my rolling pin a little bit. Take it. Oh, what I've also done is I've preheated my oven to approximately 200 degrees Celsius, which is about 390 degrees Fahrenheit. So I have that preheating as I am going to start to roll out the dough. As you're rolling out, you want to always, this is pretty soft actually, but you just always want to kind of keep moving it so it doesn't really stick to the counter. You want it fairly thin, but not too thick, and not too thin. Too thick, when you put it in the oven, like the goop in the bottom, or the butter tart goop, it won't cook in time before, or sorry, how am I gonna say this? The pastry doesn't cook in time with the butter tart goop. Okay, so that's probably pretty good. Now I just use a glass that's a little bit bigger than the tart shell, and I just go around. I want to cut my circles. Try to get as many as I can. Okay. Now you just gotta, because the pastry is quite delicate, you just need what I call pastry fingers. Just kind of lift it up and then drop it into the, I might need actually a bigger circle, and then just drop it into the tart shell. I am going to need a bigger circles, and we might need to restart this video. That's basically what you're looking for. As you can see, it didn't really, that size of circle didn't really fill it in so much. You can easily just take a little bit of dough and patch it up, and it'll be fine. And you can easily just stretch it a little more, but there you have it. So I'm gonna go with these ones. The next ones I'm gonna look for just a little bit of a wider glass. It's been a while since I've made butter tarts, and normally I kind of have the glass I use memorized, and then I won't need to do the patchwork. But the patchwork, it won't leak as long as you kind of do that. The sugar pastry, it's actually like really good. It offers a really good butter tart. Now if you have some flour that's still stuck to the bottom of the pastry, try to fluff it off, because it'll just show up as flour in your completed product. And another one. And yeah, so you just I just kind of turn it in a circle, and with my two thumbs I just press it into the side of the tart shell, and it just kind of drops in nicely. Now this one's going to need a little bit more patchwork. When I re-roll the excess dough, that one tore. This sugar pastry is fairly accepting of re-rolling, whereas pie crust, you really can only re-roll it out once before it starts to get tough and look kind of like, if you will, rather used. That one's a really good one there. I still have half the dough and the other half of the dough in the fridge. So even this one has a little bit of a crack. I'm still gonna try to, you know what, we're gonna scrap it. So with the outsides of the circles, you can just kind of put it all back into a ball again. Spread out the flour again. With the little bit of addition of the dusting flour, it should actually make this a little bit easier to handle. With the tears like that, as you can see, it just kind of it's pretty kind of difficult to work with, but easy to fix and repair if you have holes. So we're going to try this cup. Just play around with the cups. It's just a little bit wider than the other one I was using. There you have it. Fits much better. So yeah, if you try this on your own, which I strongly suggest you do, you might just need to, as I just did, switch cups. But you know, if you roll out your first set of dough and they're not quite the right size, you can just easily just peel and patch up a little bit more. Okay, so now I got 9 here. I'm just gonna, normally I'll do a whole bunch more, but just for the sake of the video, I'm going to start to fill them and teach and tell you how to cook them. So I have my raisins. I usually like to put about 5 raisins in each. These are pretty big, so maybe I'll just do 4. 5's good. 5's always my rule of thumb. And now I put them all, I put the raisins in first so that they get covered by the sugar mixture. And then with the gravy boat, I just pour it in, just enough to cover the raisins. The sugar dough, or the sugar mixture, it will kind of puff up a little bit in the oven, and if you put a little bit too much sugar mixture in, it does run the risk of kind of boiling over a little bit. Oop, that one might be a little too full, but we're gonna rock it. If it boils over, then it's just a learning lesson for myself and you guys at home. Okay, so now the secrets to butter tarts are, we're gonna put them in the oven. We gotta kind of watch them like a hawk. I can see that this one's pretty much too full. I'm gonna watch them like a hawk. Probably about after 5 minutes, I'm gonna pull them out of the oven to let them cool. If you've gone to bake sales before and you see that the inside mixture has gone black, then that particular baker has kind of left it in too long, and the sugar is actually starting to, I guess if you will, burn or boil or caramelize. That's what I don't want. But after 5 minutes, the pastry will not be cooked. So I pull it out of the oven until it cools down, maybe about 5-10 minutes. And I'll put them back in, and again, still watch them like a hawk. A trick that my grandmother or my Nana taught me was to help cook the bottoms of the pastry. I have a pan already in the oven that will allow more heat to get to the bottom of the tart. So there it is. We're gonna, I guess, cut here now. We're gonna roll out some more, and we'll see you in 5 minutes. Okay, so it has been about 4 to 5 minutes, and this I was kind of watching, but I started to do some dishes, and I turned around. Let's check them. You see how they're just starting to go, not so much go black, but brown. So they're in their cooling stage now. I'm gonna have to put them back in, and I've actually just lowered my oven just a little bit. I like them to be in the oven for the first go around a little bit longer before they get to this color. They're still not cooked, but they're on their way. So I'm gonna let these cool down for between 5 and 7 minutes, and then I'm gonna put them back in. Okay, so they've cooled down for about 5 minutes. I'm just going to simply put them back in the oven and keep checking on them about 3 to 5 minutes. Alright guys, there you have it. We have our butter tarts are done. The pastry has just started to I guess come golden brown on the outside. I didn't really caramelize or burn the sugar too much. If you see, they puff up when the heat's on them, are in the oven, but they will sink a little bit when they cool down, and they smell delicious. Okay, everyone. So this is my second, I guess, kind of second round of the first batch. I caught these ones just at a better time after the first 5 minutes in the oven. Just take it out. Well, these ones actually could have used a little bit more cooking, but the tops are better. And then if we go over to these ones, you can see that the pastry is nice and cooked. And I've had one, and they're delicious, and we're about to pack them up to take them as gifts. Anyways, this has been Steve's Cooking Show, making butter tarts. I invite you to watch my other videos, and please subscribe, because I'm constantly or consistently making more videos. If you have any suggestions of what I should make, please feel free to comment.